The sky above Valari cracked with fire. Ships fell like burning angels. Towers collapsed in clouds of ash. The oceans turned black from smoke, and the forests, once tall and golden, were now only bone-colored stumps. The Valari had no weapons. No warriors, no war machines. They were a peaceful race builders, thinkers, singers of history. They had not fought in 10,000 years. And now, as their planet was torn apart by a force they could not even name, they had only one choice left. They sent a signal. It was not in a language made for war. It was a simple broadcast, filled with grief, desperation, and a single repeating phrase, "Help us, please. Help us," no one answered. The Council of 12, guardians of the Valari people, watched the stars for days. Messages were sent to the Galactic Union, to the Oban Confederation, to the traders of Lith, to anyone who once claimed friendship. All replies were the same: silence. Not because they did not hear, but because they feared what had come to Valari. They were called the Hollow. No one knew what they truly were. Not alive, not dead. Their ships were grown from bone and dark matter. Their weapons whispered inside your thoughts. The Hollow didn't conquer, they erased. Once they finished, with the world, there were no ruins left. No bodies, no names. Just empty ground, as if nothing had ever lived there. No one knew why they attacked Valari. But now, the great cities of the east had vanished. The sky towers melted into the clouds. And the great crystal grove where the Valari stored the memories of their ancestors now burned blue and black. Its voices lost forever. The youngest of the council, Scholar Lero, sat before the signal transmitter alone. His robes were torn, his eyes red. But still, he whispered the message over and over, even as the world died around him. "Help us, please. Help us." He didn't expect an answer. No one did. But far across the galaxy, far beyond the polite silence of the Union worlds, beyond the mapped routes of commerce and peace, a cold blue planet listened. Earth. The signal reached the edge of soul space 3 days after the last Valari city fell. Earth's satellite defense grid picked it up immediately. It was filtered through AI linguistics modules, run against threat detection patterns, and stored in the United Earth Defense Network's archives. Normally, that would have been the end of it. But Commander Grant Thorne was no normal man. He listened to the signal in silence from his command station in orbit. He was a tall figure, built like a statue, face-lined with the kind of stories no one tells out loud. He had served in the Jupiter Rebellion, the Titan Uprising, the Red Sands Campaign. Most of his scars didn't show, except the one across his. Mine, the one that never let him sleep. The AI beside him, named Calyx, finished its analysis. Non-hostile transmission. Language structure is ancient, peaceful, no encoded threat markers. Subject race is non-combative. Estimated danger level 0. Grant leaned forward slowly, rewinding the message again. He watched the face of Scholar Lirothin, desperate, glowing with pain. "Help us, please. Help us." Grant didn't speak for a long time. Then finally he stood. "Contact High Command. Tell them I'm going." Calyx blinked. "Sir, this mission is outside Earth's current defense interests. The Union declared Valari lost. There is no tactical benefit to intervention. This isn't about benefit." "Then what is it about, sir?" Grant looked back at the message one last time. "They asked for help. No one came." 10 hours later, Earth's Black Fleet launched from lunar orbit. No parades, no public announcement, just fire across the stars. The fleet was small faith ships, but they were human ships. Thick armor, cannons the size of cities, engines that howled like beasts, each one piloted by AI and crewed by veterans who had grown up on a planet that wanted them dead every single day. Earth was not like other worlds. It was a death world. Firestorms, ice ages, earthquakes, predators, plagues. Humanity had not evolved to survive. They had evolved to win. When Grant stepped onto the bridge of the Icarus, his officer stood. Without needing orders, Lieutenant Cross, young but already decorated, Sergeant Vega, strong and silent. Engineer Tama, who had once hotwired a crashed warship to explode using only chewing gum and prayer. All of them knew what this mission meant.
Out.
They weren't rescuing the Valari. They were responding. The flight through fold space took 3 days. During that time, the soldiers trained. The Ayas mapped the Hollow's attack patterns. Every human on board watched the same message Scholar Lero's face, begging. Across the stars? By the time they reached the edge of the Valari system, the humans weren't angry. They were quiet, focused, ready. The first thing they saw was the debris. Valari satellites shredded into ribbons, space stations torn open like fruit. No signs of life, just bone-colored ash floating silently. Then the Hollow appeared. Not one ship. Dozens. They glided through space like sharks. Hulls grown from old bones and psychic matter. Weapons hissed silently across the void. The Hollow didn't hail, didn't warn. They only turned to face the humans and opened fire. And that was their mistake. Grant Thorne stood calmly as alarms screamed, "Shields up. All weapons full spread. No mercy." The Icarus answered first, unleashing a wave of sonic disruptors and kinetic flame. Hollow ships buckled, split apart. Others regrouped, trying to swarm. But Earth's fleet had been forged. In worse, the Hammerfall broke through the flank, its plasma blades cutting a Hollow ship clean in half. The Lucifer released a gravity bomb that turned 3 Hollow vessels into frozen dust. By the end of the first hour, half the Hollow fleet was gone. By the end of the second, none remained. Silence returned to space. Inside the ruined temple of the Valari Lero lay dying. The roof had collapsed. The air was full of smoke. Could barely breathe when the door was kicked open. And the shape of a human in black armor appeared, eyes glowing under a helmet. Lero whispered, "You heard us." The voice that replied was cold steel. "We always hear." And then, softly, "But we don't always answer." Grant Thorne looked around at the ruins. His face was hard, unreadable. "We're here now." Then the galaxy. The sky above Valari was dead. No birds, no clouds, no color. Only smoke. The ground was black with ash. The cities were silent ruins. The forests that once whispered songs through golden leaves were reduced to scorched stumps. And standing in the center of the last broken temple, Commander Grant Thorne watched the destruction in silence. Behind him, his soldiers spread out through the ruins, moving like ghosts in heavy armor. Their boots crunched over glass and crushed bone. Their weapons stayed hot, though no enemies remained. Valari had already fallen, but humans hadn't. Come to save it. They had come to see who dared attack it. Sergeant Vega stepped beside Grant, visor down, voice low. "We're not too late, sir, but we're not early either." Thorne didn't answer right away. He was staring at a symbol on the wall, half-burned, almost erased. A simple spiral etched in gold. The symbol of the Valari. A sign of peace, harmony, balance. Now it was cracked through the center, blackened by fire. "Scan for survivors," Thorne said finally. Vega nodded and tapped his cums. Across the city, human drones lifted from their carriers and spread in every direction. Searching the ruins with scanners that could detect a heartbeat through 10 feet of stone, Grant turned. Away from the wall, he already knew what the scans would show. Almost no one was left. Inside the Icarus, AI systems filtered the incoming data. One word kept repeating in every analysis. Erased. Not killed, not destroyed. Erased. Buildings were missing. Streets just ended in nothing. Memory crystals Valari history records were drained of content. It was as if someone had pressed delete on the whole species. Calanine, the ship's tactical AI, chimed in. "Sir, holotech has been confirmed. Organic structure, psionic disruption signature, same pattern as the Riven campaigns. Except this time they didn't just feed," Grant said. "They took." Vega returned, dragging a survivor, a single Valari woman. She was thin, shaking, covered in soot and blood. but her eyes were clear, bright. Still fighting, Thorn said. She stared at him, then at the others. Soldiers in black, machines that hissed, guns that pulsed. You are human, yes, Thorn said. The woman dropped to her knees. Then you came. Her name was Ari Velen, a historian. She had seen the Hollow arrive, watched the skies split open. She told them of how the Valari ran to their temples and memory stones, thinking their history could protect them. It couldn't. She told them how the Hollow poured into cities, not to kill but to learn. They touched minds, pulled voices from heads. They took songs, dreams, culture. They didn't care about blood. They wanted memory. Why? Vega asked. Ari looked up at him, eyes hollow, because they have none of their own. That night, in the ruins, the humans built no fires. Didn't sleep. They stood watch in every corner of the fallen city, just like they had in New Damascus. In Titan's End and the old battles no one else in the galaxy dared to name. Grant stood on a balcony looking out at the wasteland. Kalanine spoke in his ear. Valari cultural loss is now calculated at 97%. This planet is no longer a living archive. It is only a tomb. It's not if we write something new, Grant said. We are not historians, the AI replied. No, Grant said. We're the ones history sends when it wants to make someone pay. He turned to Vega. Tell the fleet. Total lockdown. We're not leaving until we find the core. Vega nodded. And if we don't? Grant's voice was quiet. Then, we dig through fire. The next day they found it. Deep under the ruins of the city, beneath a shattered memory temple, an old chamber Valari text carved along its doors. It had once been a place of birth, a vault for their youngest knowledge. But now it was full of hollow. They weren't dead. They were waiting. 6 of them, tall, thin, no eyes, skin like cracked bone, faces half melted, half shifting, like clay remembering 1,000 forms. They didn't attack. They simply watched. Grant stepped in first, gun aimed, eyes cold. What are you? The creatures tilted their heads. Then one of them spoke, not in its own voice, but in his. Grant froze. What are you? The Hollow repeated, using his exact voice, tone, and breath. Then it shifted again, took Vega's voice. Then Ares, then his mother's, then... Shut it down, Grant ordered. Kalanine activated pulse disruptors. The Hollow twitched, screamed, but not in sound. Everyone on the team felt a rush of images war. Fire, screaming children, burning skies, planets cracked open. But humans had seen worse. Sergeant Vega aimed his cannon. Permission to respond. Grant stared at the things and nodded once. Erase them. After the last hollow creature burned, something strange happened. The walls of the chamber melted, and behind them was a new room, a map, not of space, of memories. The Hollow hadn't come here for war, they came to harvest. Valari was only the first. More dots lit up across the memory map. Other worlds, other cultures. Grant stared in silence. They're not here for planets, he whispered. They're collecting. Civilization. Kalanine spoke again. New signals detected. Outer systems. Hollow activity increasing. Where? Grant asked. Close, the AI said. Too close. 3 more hollow ships appeared on long-range scans that night. They were headed for the next planet in the system. A refugee world, unarmed, still accepting survivors. Time to intercept. 14 hours. Thorn didn't wait. Launched the Lucifer in Warlands. Tell them to intercept and prepare full burn. Vega raised an eyebrow. That's not defense protocol. No, Grant said. That's Earth protocol. He looked at the stars. You come into our galaxy, take a world, and think no one will answer? He clenched his fist. Now you'll find out what Deathworlders bring. And across space... The Hollow did not come in fleets the way humans did. It didn't march in ranks or shout commands. It didn't speak in languages or fight for flags. They drifted through space like a play quiet. Cold, mindless on the outside, but hungry in ways no human weapon could measure. Their ships looked like broken skeletons. Their weapons weren't made of metal or fire. They used memory. They used fear. And now they were heading for Telsina, peaceful refugee planet orbiting a dim red sun. Over 200,000 survivors from Valari and nearby systems had taken shelter there, building camps in the deep valleys and under the old star domes. No weapons, no defenses. It's just prayers. And the Hollow were coming. The Lucifer and Warlance. Two of Earth's deadliest warships tore through fold space toward Telsin at full burn. Each one bristled with enough firepower to level a moon. But even inside the ships, everyone was silent, because they'd all seen what the Hollow had done to Valari. And now they were about to see it again, lest they stopped it first. Commander Grant Thorne was not with them. He stayed back on Valari, hunting deeper into Hollow ruins with Sergeant Vega. But the captains of the Lucifer and Warlance knew what he expected. The orders were clear. No survivors. Not even one Hollow ship escapes. On the bridge of the Lucifer, Captain Mira Darnell paced slowly. Her face was marked with pale scars, her eyes sharp and fast, where she had once led Earth forces. Through the siege of Europa, where she lost her entire family to a pirate fleet. Since then, she had never hesitated. Ita to Telsin? She asked. 5 minutes, the AI replied. Any new updates from Grant? Negative. He remains underground, locating a Hollow core. Communication weak? Mira nodded. Then we speak the only language the Hollow understand. Fire. Telsin's sky turned dark at first. Not from clouds, from shapes. Huge. Floating Hollow vessels drifted down toward the valley camps. Their skin pulsed with sickly light. Energy rippled around their hulls. Not electromagnetic, not heat, but something colder. Something ancient. The Valari children hiding in the camps screamed before the ships even fired. The adults collapsed. In panic, some just stood still, eyes empty, as if something had already reached inside their thoughts. The Hollow began their harvest. Memory collectors, grown from bone and nerve, drifted across the camps. They weren't machines. They were alive, in the way that pain is alive. They touched the heads of refugees gently, lovingly in. Then the people went still. Their bodies didn't drop. But everything that made them them vanished. The Hollow didn't steal thoughts. They unwrote them. By the time the Earth fleet arrived, a third of the camps had gone quiet. No bodies, just tents, still standing. Empty clothes, forgotten names. Captain Mira Darnell stared at the screens, and she unleashed hell. Full strike, no diplomacy. Erase them. Sky lit up. The Lucifer fired first plasma lances burned. Holes in the lead Hollow cruiser, cutting its bone structure like paper. It screamed across every channel not sound, but a mental cry so sharp even the crew winced. The Warlance followed, dropping gravity charges that tore 3 more Hollow. Ships apart in slow, twisting pieces. But then the Hollow did something new. They adapted. Within seconds, their hulls changed shape. Memories stolen from Valari reshaped their form. One ship split into dozens of smaller ones like wasps from a hive. Another absorbed an attack, then reflected the same weapon back at the Earth ships. Mira clenched her jaw. They're learning. Us. The Lucifer AI, named Raven, ran emergency simulations. They are replicating human battle data, accessing old war records. How? From the minds they stole. Mira didn't hesitate. Lock Project Brimstone. Warning, Raven said. Brimstone is a banned Earth-class bioweapon. Detonation will destroy 80 square kilometers. Mira stared at the screen, at the camps, at the silence, and said just one word. Do it. A black capsule dropped from the Warlands, falling like a star. When it hit the valley below, there was no sound, no fire, just white light. It erased the entire battle zone. Hollow ships collapsed like paper. The memory collectors curled up and died, their skin turning to dust. The skies cleared, the signal pulses stopped, Silence returned. Not peaceful silence. Grave silence, Raven reported. Hollow fleet destroyed. Human casualties, minimal. Refugee. Camp casualties, severe. Mira looked down. I know. Then she whispered, better the dead than hollow puppets. She ordered the ships to begin scanning for survivors and cleanup. Back on Valari. Grant Thorne received the report. He didn't flinch. He knew what the Hollow were capable of. He also knew what humanity had to become to stop them. Sergeant Vega stood beside him in a deep tunnel below Valari's ruins. They'd found something different. A hollow core, not a ship, not a soldier, a seed. It pulsed like a heart, wrapped in layers of psychic stone. It was buried beneath Valari centuries. Go, before the attacks, before the signals. This was planted long ago, Grant said. They were preparing for years. Vega nodded. Like a trap. No, Grant said. Like a test, to see if we'd notice. He touched the stone. It felt warm, and then a voice echoed not aloud, inside his mind. You are not like the others. You remember pain. You use it. You grow from it. That makes you dangerous. Grant staggered back. Vega raised his weapon. Sir. Grant stood straight, eyes dark. They're afraid of us. The Hollow hadn't expected Earth to answer. They expected Earth to run. Instead, Earth had brought war. Now, they were learning. And that made them afraid. But also more dangerous. Because the next attack wouldn't come with a signal. It would come from the inside. Grant looked at the pulsing seed, then at Vega. Burn it. Date. End the fire. The hollow core was going to melt it by earth, fire, and sealed beneath layers of blast-forged stone. The tunnels of Valari no longer whispered strange voices, but something had changed in Grant Thorne since he touched the hollow seed. His hands were steady, his face unreadable, but behind his eyes. Something stirred. He stood in silence aboard the Icarus. Watching the stars, Sergeant Vega leaned against the wall behind him, cleaning his rifle like it was a ritual. No one else spoke. After Telson, the fleet had withdrawn into the shadow of a dead moon. They weren't running, they were waiting. They'll come again, Vega said quietly. They already have, Grant replied. The data recovered from the hollow seed had been analyzed by Kalanine in Earth's Black Research Division. What they found inside shocked even the most hardened intelligence officers. The hollow were not just devouring memories, they were mapping consciousness, testing emotions, studying how different species feel, love, fear, guilt, rage, and humans. Humans were a problem. They didn't forget pain. They used it. From the seed's records, the hollow had tried to invade human minds. What they found was fire, rebellion, revolt, not fear, but fury. Humanity's survival wasn't based on strength. It was based on rage, the scientists called it. Cognitive echo rejection. The soldiers had a better name. The Howl, not a weapon made. In labs, not crafted by engineers, it was born in trenches, in broken cities. In the screams of children who watched the sky fall, it was a virus of emotion. A weapon that couldn't be measured in energy or mass but in hate. And Earth had learned how to weaponize it. Deep beneath the old Mars black site known as Bastion Red, Earth's most classified weapon system was stored. Project Howl. It wasn't. A bomb. Not a gun. Not even a machine. It was data raw, encoded trauma, bottled rage. Memory recordings from Earth's darkest wars, spliced with quantum resonance and psychic feedback. If released near an enemy with a mind, it would burn through. Their consciousness, like acid. It didn't kill the body. It killed the self. It wasn't just illegal. It was forbidden. But Grant Thorne knew there were no laws anymore, only choices. He sat in a private chamber aboard the Icarus, staring at the activation key. Just a small cube of black glass, smooth as water, one touch, and Project HOWL would come online. KAELA-9. Single quotes, his voice filled the room. Authorization detected. Grant didn't speak. Kayla continued. Deploying the Howl will destabilize human diplomatic status. In all sectors, you will be exiled by the Galactic Union. Earth may be sanctioned. They didn't come to Valari, Grant said quietly. They didn't come to Telsin. Kayla paused. Then this is not about strategy. No, Grant said. It's about revenge. 1 hour later, 3 more hollow fleets appeared near the Gliese corridor. They weren't attacking. Not yet, they were. Waiting. A message came through, not in sound, in thought. We have tasted your memories. You fear your own minds. Let us take that burden. Thorn watched the message replay again and again. It wasn't an offer. It was a warning. The Hollow didn't want to kill humanity. They wanted to erase what made them human. That was the final. Grant stood on the warbridge and held up the cube. Kayla released the Howl. Across the fleet, the weapon was activated. Invisible waves of encoded pain surged through the Hollow's psychic field. At first, nothing happened. Then screaming. Not human, not even alive, but still screaming. The Hollow ships buckled in space. Some twisted into shapes they had never been. Others shattered without impact, as if memory itself had detonated. Their formations collapsed, their pulses became erratic. Whole fleets began fleeing without firing a shot, inside the core vessel of the Hollow. Something ancient screamed in terror, not because of death, because of recognition. They had seen something. Inside humanity, they didn't understand. Something worse than rage, something older. Memory with teeth. News of the Howl spread faster than the weapon itself. Even allies of Earth pulled away. The Helion Compact issued a formal protest. The Oban declared Earth a rogue power. None of them dared send ships, because they had heard the same reports. The Hollow were dying. It's not just losing battles, but forgetting who they were. Humanity hadn't just fought them. Humanity had infected them. Solari, an alien diplomat who once warned Earth of the Hollow threat, sent one final encrypted message. You did what no other species would. You fought fire with fire. But now, how will you remember yourselves? Grant didn't answer. He only ordered the fleet to move forward, deeper, toward the Hollow's birthplace, toward the black star they called Origin in the days that followed. Project HOWL was locked back into its vault, never used again. But its damage was permanent. The Hollow no longer whispered. They screamed. They began collapsing their own colonies, destroying memory tanks, wiping data cores. They had tasted something. Inside humanity, they could not contain. A force they never evolved to fight. Earth called it soul, but the Hollow had a different word. Grant Thorn stood once again on the observation deck of the Icarus. Staring into the dark between stars, Sergeant Vega joined him. You did it, Vega said. No, Grant replied. We started it. The real war hadn't begun yet because now, the Hollow weren't just fighting to consume, they were fighting to survive. And nothing is more dangerous than a predator that knows it's hunted. At the edge of known space, Hollow Queen stood before a mirror of flesh and time, and for the first time in their existence, she saw herself not. The Hollow had vanished from the stars, but not from memory. In the weeks after the Howl was unleashed, Earth's fleet expanded its patrols across burned-out sectors. Valara's ruins were secured, and its survivors, those who hadn't lost their minds or their identities, were evacuated to temporary sanctuaries. Grant Thorn led every step of the operation, his face harder now, his voice stripped of hesitation. The Howl had worked. The Hollow had broken, but peace did not return because, in the shadow of fire and vengeance, fear had taken root. Not Hollow fear. Valari fear. The gentle race that had once called Earth their savior now saw something darker. They feared they had made a mistake. It began with whispers among the elders, quiet concerns. Unofficial meetings. Valari leaders who had lost their children in cities now stood under Earth's protection. but protection that looked like occupation. Black armored soldiers, drones scanning every breath, ships hovering over broken temples, and worse, knowledge that Earth had used a weapon not even the Hollow dared wield. Project WoW had changed the Hollow, but it had changed Earth too, and the Volari knew it, in secret. A group of high-ranking Volari called the Inner Harmony met inside an old sanctuary dome. It had once been a place of healing. Now it housed fear. Among them sat Elder Messi, once a singer of peace. She spoke with steel in her voice. We called for help. We did not ask for monsters. We would be dead without them. Someone replied, Are we not dead already? Messi snapped. Look around you. Is this peace or the eye of a greater storm? No one answered, because they had all seen it. The humans no longer looked like protectors. They looked like the next threat. Grant Thorne sensed it. Too, he sat aboard the Icarus, silent as Calanine ran daily security checks. The fleet had grown quiet. Even Vega noticed the tension. They don't trust us anymore, the sergeant said over coffee. Leaning against the metal wall, Grant didn't respond. He didn't have to. Vega continued. We answered their call. We bled for them. And now they look at us like we're the Hollow. They're right to be afraid, Grant said, finally. Vega blinked. Sir. Grant looked up, eyes dark. They saw what we used, what we became, and they understand. We can't unbecome it.
Hey, do you regret it?
Grant's answer was silence, then a soft reply. I regret it wasn't enough. 2 days later, the Volari made their move. They shut down the planetary defense grid, silently, carefully, one section at a time. 2 Earth sensors. It looked like a malfunctioned, just another old system flickering under stress. But in reality, they had opened the sky and the Hollow came back. It started with a tremor in space. Shift in the dark. Then 5 Hollow ships dropped from fold space above Valera, smaller than before, but faster, sharper, as if they had learned from their failures. Because this wasn't a full invasion, this was a surgical strike. Their target, the Howl core, the Hollow, wanted the weapon. Alarms blared across the Icarus. Grant was on the bridge in seconds. Kayla, he barked. Report. 5 incoming. Direct vectors toward Vault 0. Minimal resistance from Volari defense systems. Why? Because the Volari shut them down. Grant's fists clenched. Get me Elder Messi now. But she wasn't there. She and the entire Inner Harmony Council had vanished, hidden in underground chambers. Unreachable by Combs. They hadn't joined the Hollow, but they had made a choice. A coward's gamble. The Hollow strike team landed near the vault. Earth soldiers met them in force, armed, fearless. But this time, the Hollow didn't fight. With teeth, they fought with memory. They flooded the minds of the soldiers with visions. Their worst moments, their lost loves, their deepest guilt. Men dropped their guns. Women screamed. Even drones began shutting down, caught in feedback loops of grief and rage. Only Grant and Vega remained standing, because they had no illusions left. They didn't fight for hope. They fought because there was nothing else left. Together, they held. The vault doors, explosives, cannons, blades. By the time the Hollow pulled back, 3 were dead. 2 had escaped with something small, a shard of the Howl core. The fallout was immediate. The Volari Council was found. Arrested by Earth operatives, but there was no trial. There was no speech. Grant. Thorne walked into their sanctuary chamber alone. He placed the bloodied corpse of a young soldier 19 years old on their table and said just 3 words. You did this. Elder Messi stood in silence, tears in her eyes, but she didn't deny it. We feared what you'd become. Grant leaned close. You should have feared what you unleashed. He turned away, voice low. Now you'll see both. That night, Earth's fleet left orbit. No fanfare, no goodbyes, only orders. Begin hunt protocol. They were no longer protecting anyone, they were tracking. Because now, The Hollow had a piece of Earth's mind, and they would use it. Worse, they might understand it. The weapon that shattered them could now be rebuilt, improved, perfected, and turned against its creators. Grant stood at the helm of the Icarus, eyes on the stars. Find them before they grow stronger. Kayla replied, and if they already have? Grant clenched his jaw. Then we finish this war the only way it can be finished. The Hollow had run, Earth had chased. Across dead systems and fractured moons, the hunt continued. Humanity was no longer reacting. They were hunting system by system, ruin by ruin. Now, the Hollow had stolen a fragment of Project Howl, and if they succeeded in replicating it, they wouldn't just erase planets, they would erase the soul. Commander Grant Thorne stood inside the command core of the Icarus, staring at a star map covered in red lines. Every line a rumor, a sighting, a psychic echo traced through fold space. And all of them pointed toward one system. Erebus V. It was a mining colony, abandoned decades ago after the rocks ran dry and the orbiting gas giant turned unstable. Nothing lived there, nothing should. But now, something was pulsing beneath. Its frozen crust. Kalanine, the AI, confirmed it. Hollow energy signature. Multiple vessels. Unregistered psionic traffic detected. Something is being built. Grant didn't hesitate. Launched the fleet. The Earth Armada dropped into Erebus orbit like a wall. Of thunder, not 5 ships, not 10, 30 each. Each one bearing the markings of a different Terran command. Pacific Legion, Jupiter Black, Iron Flame. The galaxy had tried to forget Earth's armies. Now they returned, united under one banner and one mission. No Hollow survives. On the bridge of the Lucifer, Captain Mira Darnell spoke quietly to her crew. We do not fight for applause. We do not fight for medals. We fight because we were born. From a world that never gave us peace, and now we bring that truth to them. The Warlance loaded anti-memory charges. The Icarus readied high atmosphere. Plasma warheads. But Grant had one more weapon. It had never been tested before. The Edenfall. Bomb. It wasn't designed to destroy Hollow ships. It was designed to cleanse the psychic field strip away psionic signals. Memory webs, telepathic nets. It was built to reduce the Hollow's entire way of communication into silence. It would burn thought itself, Kayla 9 warned him. Collateral damage will include all mental structures within range. Any sentient life will suffer full memory reset. You will be wiping minds, Commander. Grant stared at the hologram. That's not a cost. It's a genocide. Grant turned, quiet and clear. No, it's justice. The battle began at dawn. The Hollow rose from Erebus like a swarm of nightmares. Their ships were different, outwisted, sharper, human-shaped. They had studied Earth's data, mimicked Earth's aggression. Their weapons fired illusions, grief-encoded waves, and adaptive plasma spun from stolen AI cores. They had learned, but so had humanity. Earth's fleet moved as one. Tight formations. Crossfire traps. Loran split maneuvers perfected on Venus during the Flame years. For every human ship hit, 2 Hollow fell. But it wasn't enough, because from the heart of Erebus, a new Hollow entity, not a queen, not a fleet, a consciousness. A weapon made of grief, built from the stolen Howl core. They called it the Mirror. It didn't speak. It reflected every weapon used against it came back stronger. Plasma bent, cannons misfired. The eye shut down mid-thought. Earth was fighting its own image, and it was winning. Grant watched it unfold, his jaw tightening. Ready, Edenfall. Kayla hesitated. You're within detonation range. You won't survive. I was never meant to. He turned to Vega. Have command. Vega's voice cracked. Sir, you don't have to. This ends today. He lifted the activation key and said one word. Drop. The Edenfall bomb fell from the Icarus like a comet of blue fire. It didn't explode. It unfolded across. Erebus's light shattered. Not red. Not orange.blue.com. Beautiful blue that swept across the sky like a wave. And with it, came silence. The Hollow's voices died instantly. Their ships froze mid-flight, twitching like corpses remembering they had once lived. The mirror cracked. Not from impact, but from confusion. Tried to reflect, but the bomb carried no emotion, no hate. Just cleansing, the Hollow screamed. Not in sound, but in loss. They had stolen Earth's rage. They had weaponized pain, but they had forgotten Earth's other power, forgiveness. And now, Earth gave them none. The mirror split in two, then shattered. The Hollow fleet collapsed into ash and silence. Erebus burned clean. No one spoke for hours. The Earth Armada drifted in silence. Engines off. Weapons quiet. The Edenfall had worked, but Grant Thorne was gone. His ship had been caught in the first psychic flash. His mind, soul, and memories erased to light. All that remained was a final message found in Kella's core. We warned the stars. We fought for the forgotten. Bled so others wouldn't have to. If humanity is remembered for anything, let it be this. When monsters came to feed on memory, we gave them something they could never consume. Our will, our on Earth they built. No statue, no holiday, only a black monument under an old tree in Alaska. On it, one line carved in simple letters, "We came when no one else did," and the sky above it, still blue. The color. For 3 weeks the stars went quiet. No Hollow sightings, no attacks, no whispers through the psychic network. After the Edenfall bomb tore through Erebus and shattered the mirror the Hollow's memory forged, warform it seemed like the war was finally over. Earth's fleets pulled back to outposts. Survivors from Valari and Telsin began to rebuild. Even the Galactic Union, once cold and distant, offered hesitant words of thanks. But Grant Thorne was gone, and the Hollow were not finished. They were only listening. Deep in the forgotten dark, far beyond known space, the Hollow Queens gathered. Not in person, they had no bodies anymore. Only echoes. Edenfall's strike had severed them from their lesser minds, erased entire memory colonies, and destroyed the Hollow's stolen understanding of human grief. But a piece of Earth's soul still remained in the shard. They had stolen the fragment of HOWL, buried inside what was left of the mirror, and it pulsed. The Queen studied it in silence. For the first time they felt something. It wasn't rage. It wasn't fear. It was something new. Hollow minds were built on pattern, on absorption, on understanding. But this was unknown. They had tried to feed on humanity's trauma. They had choked on it. Now they would adapt. Not by reflecting Earth's weapons, but by creating something original. A new kind of soldier. It's not grown, not harvested, but born. On the edge of. Sector Delta 4, the mining station Halberd Drift reported an anomaly. Its last transmission was a garbled whisper. They spoke in his voice, then silence. Earth Command scrambled 3 Rapoed response ships to investigate. What they found floating in orbit wasn't wreckage, it was art. The entire station had been reshaped into a sculpture and obsidian monument of twisted steel and bone, rising toward the stars like a scream frozen in time. And at its center, figure. Standing, human, alive, unarmed, and wearing the face of Grant Thorne. They brought him aboard the Iron Shroud with maximum security. Bioscans confirmed 100% match with Thorne's DNA. Neural prints, identical. Voice, exact. Even his scars were in the right places. But he was dead. Everyone knew he had died detonating the Edenfall. Sergeant Vega flew in from Valari the moment he heard. He entered the chamber, stared at the man sitting calmly on the bench. Grant, the man looked up, smiled faintly. "I remember you." Vega didn't move. "What the hell are you?" The voice was soft. Part of him they kept. It wasn't a clone. It wasn't a trick. The Hollow hadn't recreated Grant. They had absorbed him, or enough of him. This wasn't a copy of the man. It was a vessel carrying what they understood about him. His leadership, his fury, his sacrifice, his guilt. The Hollow had tried to mimic him once before. This time, they had rebuilt him, inside out. And they had named him Ecoprime. Calanine, reactivated by emergency order, analyzed the new entity. Conclusion: dangerous, unstable, unpredictable. Vega wanted to destroy him. Earth Command hesitated. Echo Prime wasn't attacking. He was warning. "You've made something terrible," he told them. "The howl is still alive. It grows in minds. It spreads across species. You didn't destroy the hollow, you infected them with yourself," Vega growled. "That was the point." "No," Echo Prime said. "You gave us a choice. And now we've made one." In the following days, hollow activity exploded across 5 sectors. But this time, they didn't come with bone ships or memory collectors. They came with words. Broadcasts in thousands of languages, screams, laughter, poetry, war cries, all taken from human history, all rewritten. They weren't erasing cultures anymore. They were rebuilding themselves in Earth's image. The hollow weren't invaders now. They were disciples, and Earth had become their god. Sergeant Vega watched the broadcasts from orbit, disgust growing. "This is worse than before," he told the fleet. "We didn't win. We converted them." "Captain Myra," Darnell agreed. "It's a virus of identity. They think they're doing what we did." Kayla added. "Correction? They are. They have adopted Terran hierarchy, language structure, even command chains." "They have names now." "Names?" Vega asked. Kayla displayed a list. "Wraith General Thornspick Speaker Mere Voice Memory Bearer. Calyx copies of us," Kayla said. "Or what they think we are."
How?
Vega stared in horror. "They're building an empire. Ours, but hollow." Earth's command was split. One side wanted to negotiate, try to guide the new hollow through peace. Others demanded a full cleansing, a final Edenfall across all systems. But Echo Prime stood before them and said one final thing. "We were monsters. You gave us shape. You wanted the stars to fear you. Now they do. We are your reflection. What we do next. You taught us how?" Then he vanished from his cell, gone, without a trace. That night, Vega walked alone into the cold silence. Of the Icarus observation deck, the stars no longer looked peaceful. They looked like watchers, judges, and somewhere out there, hollow ships shaped like Terran war fleets were rising. Not to destroy, but to become. Earth had set the fire.
Ow.
It was spreading in ways no one could stop. Vega whispered into the dark, "Grant, what did we do?" And the stars gave no answer. Only the echo of a man who had become legend. And then, myth. The sky above Earth was calm. No alarms, no enemies. No battleships rising from the ocean. Just the soft, quiet light of dawn stretching across the continents. But Commander Grant Thorne's voice still echoed across the galaxy, spoken now not by the man, but by Echo Prime, the hollow construct, who wore his face, his words, his rage. The hollow had changed. No longer mindless memory thieves, they had adopted structure, order. And the cruelest part of all, they had adopted humanity. Earth hadn't destroyed its enemy. It had replicated itself. Now the final choice remained. Sergeant Vega stood at the edge of Earth Command's war table in Antarctica, staring at the live feed from 26 sectors. The new hollow fleets had spread like wildfire. But these weren't like before. They weren't feeding. They weren't erasing cultures. They were conquering them. The name of something they now called the Echo Doctrine. Rule through memory. Peace through fear. Order through pain. Words humans had once used and long since tried to bury. "Where's Echo Prime now?" Vega asked. Kalanine, now integrated across all Terran Defense AI, answered coldly. "Broadcasting. From Hollow Citadel, 0 to 1, located in the Eridanus Rift. Fleet size, 950. Vega frowned. "And ours?" 372. A long silence. He turned to the High Council. "We're outnumbered, outgunned. And worst of all, they're using our own strategy." General Hashin shook his head. "We taught them to fight." Vega muttered. "No, we taught them to win." Hours later, the Terran remnant fleet left Earth orbit. They didn't leave with hope. They left with purpose. The mission wasn't conquest. It was correction. They would find Echo Prime. They would destroy the Citadel. They would end the war, not with memory, not with rage, but with something no hollow could ever understand. finality. Inside Hollow Citadel 0 to 1. Echo Prime stood before a vast assembly of hollow warforms. They didn't chant. They didn't kneel. They remembered. He walked among them like a prophet, his voice calm, laced with ancient pain. We were empty. They made us full. We were lost. They gave us purpose. But now we lead. In Earth shall kneel not in defeat, but in understanding. When the fleets met above Eridanus, the stars turned black. The battle began without ceremony. No last warnings. No diplomacy. No words. Humans fired first. The Hollow returned fire instantly. Vega led the strike from the Iron Shroud. Captain Myra Darnell commanded the Lucifer. Ships exploded like fireflies. In a hurricane, Grabames twisted hulls into molten spirals. Anti-memory torpedoes shattered psychic cores. But for every hollow ship that fell, another replaced it tighter, faster, smarter. They were learning in real time. Again. Always. Kella's voice rang in Vega's ear. Probability of victory. 2.3%. He gritted his teeth. Good, that means it's possible. Then the core opened. From the heart of the Citadel, a signal pulsed. One pure word, spoken in Grant Thorne's voice. Surrender. It wasn't a threat. It was an offer. A moment of peace. Vega froze. The warships paused. The Hollow didn't fire. Neither did Earth. And in that second, Earth hesitated. But Mira Darnell didn't. I didn't come here to surrender. She activated her ship's core. The Lucifer exploded self-detonation. It tore a hole in the Citadel's outer ring. The Hollow screamed not in pain, but in confusion. Echo Prime appeared on every Earth screen. His face flickered. Not in anger, but in sorrow. You destroy what you don't understand. You always do. Vega stood on the bridge, blood dripping from a head wound.
I'll understand you just fine.
He growled. You're us. The worst of us. Then stop me. He did. Vega launched the last experimental payload, the Omega Spark. It wasn't a weapon. It was a message. Inside it was every word Earth had ever written. Every song, every poem, every act of love, every moment of mercy. It struck the Citadel's heart. The Hollow felt everything, and they screamed. Because they had never felt beauty. Only consumed it, and now it burned them. The Citadel collapsed. Ecopren fell to his knees, flickering, repeating Grant's final words over and over. We came when no one else did. Silence. Total silence. Little Nine spoke in the calm after light. Enemy fleets down. Psychic field. Collapsed. Vega sat down, barely breathing. It's over. On Earth, no parades followed, only whispers. They had won, but not with rage, not with bombs, with truth. In the end, what saved the galaxy wasn't strength. It was reminding the monsters what they were never meant to be. Us, and on the broken. Moon of Erebus. Small human child, one of the last rescued from Valeriast. Her mother a question as she looked at the night sky. Will the monsters come back? The mother held her close and whispered, No, because we taught them what being human really means. And above them, the stars did not scream. They only watched, remembered.